Big week coming up in the NBL, and when it gets to the most important time of the year, we roll out the big guns on NBL Now. Joel Peterson, very much not a big gun. Great to be with you as always, but I have with me a very big gun indeed in Lanard, Copeland. Copes, great to see you.
Joel, you certainly know how to put a smile on a man's face, don't you?
That's right. Do what I can. I do what I can. It's always great to talk hoops with you. We do have plenty to talk about. We've got two semi-final series coming up, matter of days away, of course. We have a team that's been sold over the course of the weekend, another talent coming into the NBA, but I think the eyes and the ears of the NBL world will be on nbl.com.au, the NBL app, because Derek Rucker's top 15, 1 to 5, has landed.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say Bryce Cotton finds his rightful place at the top, Copes.
Well, it's about time. Didn't Derek have him at 2 or 3 or something like that last year? But look, Bryce has had a fantastic year. I think Derek's 1, 2, and 3 were it was a given. I mean, those guys were in the MVP race, and all three had fantastic seasons. Montrez hit the scene running, and everyone loved him or hated him, but we talked about him every week, which is a good thing for the NBL. Now, there's one, number 5. I'm sort of a little bit taken back about that one because, everyone knows I love Xavier Cooks. He's my man. He's a phenomenal player, does everything right. But he didn't have the best year. I mean, the year before he went to the NBA, he was solid. We talked about him every week. And he had a good year, but it wasn't a great year. And I think Casey Prather probably would have been in my fifth spot because he was just so dominant. And anytime the Brisbane Bullets won, it was because he was shooting the ball at 40% from the three-point line, just automatic. He just got so much better throughout the year, and he led that team.
Yeah, it was one of the great stories of the season was Casey Prather's re-emergence. So Bryce Cotton 1, Kendrick Davis 2, Matt Hurt 3, Montrezl Harrell 4, Xavier Cooks 5, Chris Golding just outside that top 5. Then you've got Cal, Harvey, Adams, Prather in 10, Froling, Pinder, Jack White, PJ Sue, who was right at the top of this thing mid-season, just sneaks in there in 14, and Nathan Sobey in 15. Were there any other big surprises that came out of the list? Any gripes you've got to take up with Ruck Cups?
Well, I always have a gripe with Ruck. Me and Ruck, we're just enemies. We're frenemies, all right? So, but no, I think he did a good job. I mean, he has a hard job because you're not going to satisfy everybody. Somebody's going to have a gripe. Somebody's not going to be happy. And he puts his heart and soul into this top 15. And he's done a very good job. Again, my number 5 probably would have been a little bit different. But everyone else probably deserved to be in the top 15.
Yeah, you look at that list and you generally see who is there. It's really hard to find, who would I put in and that kind of thing. So you can check it out, NBL app, watch the full show with Jack and Ruck, and they'll chop it all up. But Bryce Cotton back at the top of the tree as far as Derek Rucker's top 15 is concerned. So the Perth Wildcats fans, at least for a few days before their semi-finals, feel like
he's going to Perth. He's calling the Perth game, so that might be why Cotton's number 1. Yeah, okay, Derek, I see what you're doing now.
Just feathering the nest a little bit is our man D-Ruck. He is a wily operator. I wouldn't put it past him. One name that wasn't in that list, I might have had him right on the fringes, was Taran Armstrong, who is headed to the NBA, Cope. So he signed a 10-day contract with the Golden State Warriors. Basketball.com.au broke this news in the last couple of days. This is a huge opportunity from the man from the Apple Isle.
It is, and we spoke about him a lot throughout the season. You could tell by the way he's starting to play. He's gotten a lot better. He's more confident. He's shooting the ball from outside. He's always been one of those guards who gets others involved. He has a little bit of arrogance, which is not a bad thing. He knows how good he is. He reminded me a lot of a young Josh Giddey, and he's got the size. He's worked on his size. So I think, you give a guy like that an opportunity, you never know what's going to happen, and hopefully he can stick, and we'll be talking about him from years to come.
That's a really exciting prospect. Speaking in Tassie basketball, of course, Taran Armstrong, a product of Tasmania. The local team down there, the JackJumpers, have been, sold at, Larry Kestelman sold a 51% stake of them for $35 million to Altor Capital. So a really big deal to get some more investment into the JackJumpers. So they're a Brisbane-based private equity firm. I looked them up at the weekend, Copes. They've got a very fancy website. I did not understand a word that was there. So they're clearly much smarter people than I, which is not setting the bar particularly high, I might add. But if you were part of the JackJumpers ownership group, to keep this team at the top of the tree, as they have been over their first 3 seasons before a dip this year, what do you think your first order of business would be?
To make sure Roth is still there. I mean, he's a part of the JackJumpers. He started that whole thing. He's got them playing the way they should play. And everyone loves him. Everybody down there loves him. I was lucky enough to go down there 3 or 4 times this year, and he can do no wrong. I mean, even in a loss, people are walking up to him saying, "We're sorry," So, but he's done a phenomenal job with the team, their culture, they're winning. We spoke about how you can never count these guys out. And if I'm part owner, I want to put some more seats into place, but I want to make sure I sign Roth as my head coach.
So that'll be the first big task for that Tassie ownership, to try and get Scott Roth locked away for a few more years if they can. It is weird not to have the Tasmania JackJumpers in our final 4 teams. Of course, we have 2 semi-final series that kick off this week. Thursday night, it is Melbourne and Perth at John Cain Arena. Friday night is Illawarra and South East Melbourne at the Wynn Entertainment Centre. Let's start with Melbourne and Perth, though, Copes. You'll be at all these games, which is very, very exciting as part of our pre-game show. Yourself, Pete Hawley, Felix von Hoff. It's going to be a lot of fun throughout the TV coverage for these semi-finals. Big part of the Melbourne-Perth rivalry is Bryce Cotton and Shea Ili. Can Shea Ili do to Bryce Cotton in this semi-final series what he has done in the regular season? What do you think?
Well, look, it's going to be tough. I'm an offensive guy. I always think the offensive guy has the advantage because the defensive guy doesn't know what he's going to do. I think now, though, with Cotton having the help that he's needed all year long, Pender, Doolittle, these guys are playing great basketball right now. So Melbourne's focus has to be on all of those guys, not just Cotton. And at certain stages throughout the season, it was Cotton getting 40 or 50 points, and the other guys were just coming along for the ride. But the last couple of weeks, I've been over in Perth, and Doolittle is just, he's not missing. The way he shoots the ball now, he's changed his whole game. When he got here, it was all about the defensive end. Now he's stroking it from outside. He's confident with his offensive ability. And then you got Pender, who has become a different person again. And if he's playing like that, and Doolittle's playing like that, along with Cotton and the crew, their focus has to be a little bit more than just Cotton. So, yes, Shea Healy will do a good job, but Cotton is one of those guys who can get going. He really can.
A question without notice. Let's talk floors and ceilings. Which team has the higher floor, so they're sort of their baseline average performance? Which team do you think has the higher ceiling?
Well, that's a tough one because all 4 of these teams have been high and low at certain stages of the year. I mean, Illawarra probably the highest because of their bench. We're talking 4 teams. If you're talking Melbourne, Perth, I'd say Perth because of all the talent. I see Perth as one of those teams that if they're going, then they're hard to stop. They are very hard to stop. On the other hand, Melbourne, who've lost a lot of talent over the years, have found a way. Dean Vickerman finds a way to get the best out of his players. And so when those guys are playing defense and they're rebounding, they're hard to compete with. And then you got CG. We haven't spoken about CG, who comes in, knocks down 2 or 3 threes, and it just somehow excels the rest of the team, gets them going. And once they get going, they're hard to stop.
And if you needed any excuse to view, the first game of this 3-game series as critical, Melbourne's gone over to Perth and had success so far this year. So they beat Perth in Melbourne, and that's a mighty tough task for the Wildcats to host them over there. Equally, Perth win game 1. They'll be feeling pretty good going back home for game 2.
Absolutely they will. And again, you got to understand something. Melbourne is sitting back waiting. When teams are sitting back waiting, it's hard to get back into that playoff mode. This FIBA break, I think, could possibly hurt teams like Melbourne and Illawarra because they haven't played. They haven't been, they haven't been in the mix of things. So if Melbourne can get that playoff mode going, it's hard to beat Melbourne in Melbourne. But like you said, if Perth are lucky enough to come over here and get that win, I'd have to put my money on Perth going back to Perth.
So Friday night, Illawarra and South East Melbourne. It is in Wollongong, where the Hawks have been mighty tough to beat this year. And, this great sort of coaching rivalry between Justin Tatum, who came in last year, took over the Hawks, led them all the way to the semi-finals, and now Josh King, who's treaded a very similar path to what Tatum did last season. How do you see sort of that coaching battle between these two high-octane, high-energy guys playing out?
Well, both coaches demand excellency. You got to play well for them. I mean, Josh King is a defensive guy. We know that. He speaks about it all the time. If you're not playing defense, then he's quite happy to pull you off and put somebody in there that's going to get the job done. Same with Tatum. We see what Tatum's done. He's got a great bench. So if the guys are starting five are slow starting, he'll take all five of those guys off or four of those guys off and put his bench on. And that's where I think he has the advantage, because he has 8 or 9 or 10 guys solid that can get the job done.
What about the Matt Hurt question mark here? How do Illawarra try and sort of slow him down? Is it weight of numbers? Do they have a specific matchup, do you think, that they'll go to?
Well, he's tough. As you know, we called a lot of their games, and I love the fact that this guy is so confident in his own game. Now, the only thing can slow him down is South East Melbourne don't get him the ball enough, because when he gets it, I don't see anybody else that can stop him. He's that confident and he's that good. Yes, you'll put Frawling on him. Yes, you'll have days on him. You have guys that you can throw at him. But again, throughout the whole year, he's been one of the top players in this league. And it's hard to contain a guy full of confidence who's an offensive guy. I keep talking about offense. Offense is hard to stop when you're that confident.
We know your heart sits on that side of the ball, Coach. That is for sure. What about that Hawks backcourt, Harvey and Cal? Right up there as far as Derek Rucker's top 15 list, 6 and 7 on the season. Both in all NBL teams. The part of a three-way tie for the Hawks MVP. These two. Do South East Melbourne have enough at the defensive end to slow them down?
I think Illawarra, the Hawks have the advantage because both of those guys have size. Like Kel, he's a very big point guard. I mean, when he played in South East Melbourne, they had him at the 2 guard. When he played in Illawarra, in Adelaide, they put him a little bit at the point, but now he's really excelling at the point guard with his size. And he shoots the ball well. He distributes the ball extremely well, gets other guys involved. But Harvey, he's been doing this since day dot, since he landed in Australia, shooting the long ball, throwing up that runner that's unstoppable. And again, 2 guys that are full of confidence. When you have these guys playing together, it's a hard mix to stop.
Yeah, it really is. It is going to be so much fun to see those 2 series unfold. So, of course, Melbourne and Perth starts on Thursday. South East Melbourne and Illawarra starts on Friday. Copes, a little bit of sad news coming out in the last little while. Understand that Kevin Braswell, the former New Zealand player and coach who won a title with Wellington in the NBL, has unfortunately lost a prolonged health battle. Just some reflections on that.
Well, I got the news not long ago, and he was I think he had a stroke and he went into a coma, and then a couple of days later he came out and he was doing well. I'm an American guy that came over and became friends with all the boys. Like, there's a group of us that play cards, we play poker, and we go to the gym together. And he was one of those guys that hung around, and we got to know him. A very nice guy, family guy, and just extremely humble guy. Great coach, and always looking to help kids and trying to help kids. So this is very sad news. I'm sure, there'll be a lot of people that haven't heard, but when they do, they're going to be very sad.
Yep, absolutely. So our thoughts and prayers going out to the Braswell family. We'll get back to all the game action later in the week. It's going to be such an exciting week as we build up to those 2 semi-final series. Copes, always great to have your company. Looking forward to seeing you across the course of the weekend, hearing much more of your voice across the course of the TV coverage. The semi-finals, it's going to be an exciting week.
I can't wait, Joe. You're a good man. I'll see you soon.
Lanard Copeland with us on NBL Now. Keep across the NBL socials, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and more for all the latest breaking news and behind-the-scenes content.